The film begins as two current-looking individuals of color, in their extravagant clothing, are being auctioned off at an closeout. They are tied by their necks, and maybe the spot is a slave market. Following this, the film returns into a flashback where everything began. It spins around two alienated relatives, Regis furthermore, Joel Grossdesir from the West Indies, who carry on with totally various existences. Joel is a monoracial individual of color, crisp out of jail, later spending time in jail for taking an elderly person's satchel. Presently, he lives with his mom, also, his 9-year-old girl. He is sequentially jobless and faults bigotry for every one of his troubles, particularly his joblessness. Nonetheless, he has never truly attempted to look for a job. Then again, Regis is a biracial man. He is hitched to a white lady and has a 9-year-old girl with her. He lives in a well-to-do town and is very much coordinated into the privileged society. Regis is utilized at the nearby city center, what's more, functions as a colleague to the city hall leader. At some point, Regis gets a call from his uncle, illuminating him that his dad is kicking the bucket, and it is the elderly person's conclusive wish to meet every one of his youngsters. Be that as it may, Regis pays no respect to his lowlife father, as he was not around when Regis was a kid. He then continues to eat with his loved ones. Be that as it may, his insane spouse takes steps to get laid with different men, on the off chance that he doesn't pay his dad one last visit. Left with no decision, he hesitantly concurs. The following day, Regis takes a trip to his old neighborhood, where his dad dwells. At the air terminal, he runs into Joel, who has additionally come to see their dad. The siblings, who have been beyond reach for over 10 years, set their disparities to the side. What's more, employ a taxi together. They make up for lost time in the taxi while heading to their dad's home. Regis informs Joel everything regarding his effective life, while the last option misleads conceal his disappointments out of humiliation. After coming to their father's home, they are acquainted with their auntie and a few relatives. That's what turns out: their father wandered all through the world, and had relations with endless ladies. This makes sense of why Joel and Regis have different skin tones. The elderly person's eyes light up when he sees his main two children before him. Prior to passing on, he lets Regis and Joel know that they will acquire an extraordinary fortune. This invigorates the siblings, and they anxiously hold back to find out about the fortune. Be that as it may, regrettably, all they get as legacy is a record of liberation of their progenitors. This record was given over to a couple slaves by their proprietors, for some uncommon work or then again act. Obviously, Regis and Joel's predecessors were conceded opportunity well before bondage was lawfully nullified in the West Indies. Be that as it may, not worried about the representative worth of this piece of paper, they laugh at the legacy. They then, at that point, negatively destroy the paper under the disliking eye of their late dad's sister. True to form, this irritates the elderly person, so she chooses to show the rascals a thing or two. She projects a voodoo spell on them and sends them back to the 1700 years, where subjugation is as yet pervasive. In the following scene, when Regis and Joel wake up, they wind up stripped down to their planter clothing in an open field. As the two marvel about what occurred, 2 or 3 unnerved individuals of color run past them. All at once, 2 slave trackers additionally show up and catch the Grossdesir siblings. They are then taken to a slave market and offered to Monsieur Jourdain, a landowner. Jourdain shares Joel with the ranches, where he will work under the consideration of Henri, a severe and profoundly bigoted foreman, while Regis is shipped off the kitchens of the home. Before long, the stepbrothers find that they have really time traveled to 1780, when servitude is as yet a thing. The following day, the slaves are compelled to tune into a cleric who peruses them a phony book of scriptures, about how individuals of color ought to submit to the whites. Be that as it may, since the Grossdesir siblings are the only ones other than the whites who can peruse, they will not concur with the items. Regis even shocks the cleric by perusing him a line from the book. Later in the day, Joel appears late to the field and gets hit by Henri. Tired of Henry's torment and conduct, Joel makes a run for it to escape the ranch, however winds up hitting his head on a post and taking himself out. Because of his activities, he is scourged before everybody. That evening, Regis is called to Monsieur Jourdain's office where his capacity to peruse is recognized. Jourdain commends him for being a brilliant slave, and gives him the privilege to control different slaves with Henri. Meanwhile, Joel is getting his wounds treated by a female slave, Rosalie. It has been just 5 minutes since they've met, however Joel has previously begun loving her. At an ideal second, he inclines in for a kiss, just to get turned down. Rosalie then uncovers that she is enamored with an individual slave named Isidore, causing Joel a deep sense of failure. The following day, Regis completes his new obligation also, begins requesting and directing different slaves to go about their responsibilities. Joel is stunned to see his sibling behaving like the whites and censures him for being egotistical. Nonetheless, Regis could care less and he keeps on being faithful to his new bosses and reports his work all through the day to Monsieur Jourdain. In the long run, everybody in the white family learns about Regis' capacity to peruse and begins deriding him. They additionally kid about whether he can play the piano. Incredibly, Regis plays the piano delightfully. Be that as it may, this outcomes in him getting whipped seriously by the whites. At long last exhausted, Regis needs out and the following morning, the two siblings escape the manor by subtly jumping in the carriage of a Jewish man named Isaac. At the point when they arrive at his place, Isaac approaches them and uncovers that he knew about their presence from the beginning. The siblings implore him for kindness, yet shockingly, Isaac furnishes them with incredible cordiality and care as Jews are likewise a survivor of separation. Before long, Monsieur Jourdain's partners in crime show up at Isaac's home looking for the two siblings. In any case, previously they could get found out, Regis and Joel bid Isaac goodbye and escape through the secondary passage. They advance toward the coastline, where they take an unwanted boat and set out into the sea. Entertainingly, they run into a boat that is utilized to move captives to barters and are gotten and detained. Finally, the Grosdesir siblings end up in a similar slave market, where they are purchased by Jourdain's cohorts. Luckily, returning to the manor, the siblings are saved by an African clan who call themselves the Maroons. Here, it's uncovered that individuals of the clan were all slaves once before they escaped from their proprietors. The two are invited into the clan and they start to recite with the clan chief. Be that as it may, Regis, what himself's identity is hitched to a white young lady, rejects to recite, when the Maroons discuss killing the whites. This maddens the clan and they rapidly turn on the siblings. However, luckily, Regis and Joel figure out how to surpass the clan and arrive at well-being. The following day, the two regard themselves as in an obscure spot where they see their auntie, who cast a spell on them. The siblings before long understand that it was she who was liable for sending them back in time. They beg her to eliminate the spell, and notice that they will do anything for it. At first, the elderly person declines, yet when the siblings continue to argue, she gives them a clue. She lets them know that the main way for them to get back to the present is to arrive at the manor once more. What's more, rejoin their predecessors, Isidore and Rosalie. She likewise tells them to amend the blunder, without explaining any further. Prior to vanishing, the lady abandons her exceptional line, what's more, trains the siblings to smoke it when they have effectively finished their main goal. As the two are conceptualizing ways of handling the circumstance, Joel abruptly saw what seemed like Isidore having oral intercourse with another man. He has likewise recorded a video of the episode on his telephone and shows it to Regis. The two siblings then become persuaded that Isidore is gay and they erroneously trust that this is the blunder that they should fix. In the following scene, Joel and Regis bring back to the estate. They attempt to haggle with Monsieur Jourdain on their discipline, yet it doesn't turn out for them. All things being equal, they get marked with a sigil of the ranch. They then, at that point, get back to their cabins and start to design their game plan. In the interim inside the house, the whites are commending the wedding party of Monsieur Jourdain's little girl. Accepting this as the ideal interruption, the siblings sort out a party of their own for the slaves. They covertly take a barrel of rum from the refinery to inebriate also, to initiate the sentiment among Isidore and Rosalie. Nonetheless, their arrangement hits a road obstruction at the point when Regis spots Joel making out with Rosalie because of his captivation by her. Thereafter, the two siblings make do, and actually help the couple have intercourse as they are snoozing. Whenever this is finished, they are persuaded that their mission there is achieved. Trusting that they can return home at whatever point they like, the siblings choose to get back at the Whites. They make their way into the manor, equipped, where they embarrass everybody. Joel kisses the girl of Monsieur Jourdain, while Regis begins harming furniture and even slaps a white man. All of a unexpected, Henri jumps in the room with a weapon and undermines the siblings. In any case, Regis and Joel give no indications of dread, and continue to utilize the pipe. Sadly, when they smoke it, nothing occurs. Maybe the mystical line given by the old woman was supplanted with a normal one. Because of their deeds, they are secured an enclosure and are sentenced to execution the following day. That evening, the siblings get close to home also, begin examining their life decisions. Regis discusses his weak marriage, while Joel admits that he is destitute and jobless. Following a couple of hours, as the siblings are as yet feeling for one another, Henri shows up and takes them out to the field where they should be hanged. Notwithstanding, just before the execution, Monsieur Jourdain's child, Victor, runs off into the backwoods as he can't tolerate watching the sight. Rosaline pursues after him and before long figures out that he has fallen into the close-by stream. All individuals from the family frenzy and hurry to the scene. Nonetheless, Isidore exploits the commotion and saves the siblings, taking out Henri in the interaction. He then, at that point, orders them to run for their lives, to which they oblige. As the siblings escape, they go over Victor, who is being cleared by the stream. Without a second thought, the two leap into the perilous waterway. However, amazingly, Joel can't swim. This makes his undertaking significantly more troublesome. However, some way or another, he figures out how to save his sibling and Victor. Thankful to the siblings for saving his child's life, Monsieur Jourdain liberates them. The relatives are likewise granted with the very same report of liberation that they were given by their late dad. Notwithstanding, rather than tolerating the opportunity and the honor, they demand Monsieur Jourdain to free Isidore and Rosalie and present them with the archive. The Monsieur tracks down the solicitation exceptionally bizarre, yet in any case, he obliges. Along these lines, the siblings have figured out how to free Isidore and Rosalie, yet they actually don't have the foggiest idea where to find the otherworldly line which will help them get once again to the advanced time. With days cruising by, they gradually start to acknowledge that they might very well never get once again to their time. At some point, Isidore and Rosaline welcome the siblings farewell and leave the ranch with the papers. As the two watch them leave from a remote place, Henri approaches them and orders them to return to work. He then, at that point, takes out his line and starts smoking. At the point when he attempts to embarrass the siblings by blowing smoke in their countenances, they out of nowhere vanish, much to the shock of Henri. This demonstrates that Henri was the person who took the line from them. In the following scene, the siblings get once again to the present, where they see their auntie alongside them. At the point when they see her holding the first archive in her grasp, Regis and Joel become assuaged. A while cruise by. Joel gets a normal line of work on a building site where he actually grumbles about his lowest pay permitted by law and that it has to do with him being dark. In the meantime, Regis gets back to his work at the city center. At some point, as he is going to leave his office, he welcomes the city chairman who passes a bigoted joke. Regis, being presently not the individual he used to be, chooses to face the city chairman's prior to stomping off. The scene then, at that point, slices to Regis and his significant other alongside Joel and his mother talking in Regis' family room. The two concur that the experience they had brought them closer as a family. However, a contention between their separate little girls prompts the tearing of the record of liberation. The film closes as Regis also, Joel run towards their little girls in alarm.